Hi everyone, my name is Kraz and this is my attempt at a Hardcore Nuzlocke in Pokemon White. Gen 5 has always been my favorite generation for the art style and the new Pokemon, but I've never actually done a Nuzlocke for this game, so let's see if we can replicate our success from Ruby. For our starter we go with Tepig, and my friends instantly challenge me to a battle in my own bedroom. I assert my dominance over them both and then name my Tepig Pork. Next we get our Pokeballs and the run can begin. On the way to Accumula Town, I catch a Lillipup and name it Hound. It has the ability Vital Spirit, which is useful on its own, but even more importantly becomes Intimidate when it evolves. In Accumula Town we have our first fight with N, who just has a Purloin at this point. He goes down to Pork and Tackle. While we were here we ran into this lady that said that me and my Pokemon somehow resemble each other. Hey. Uncool. Next up on Route 2, we catch a Purloin and name it Tiger. Tiger is a pretty useless encounter, but he can stay on the team for now. Our next encounter comes in the Dream Yard, where we get a Pansage that we name Monkey. Pansage is useful for exactly this gym fight and then falls off hard. I considered waiting for our Dream Yard encounter to catch a Munna, but I'd rather just have an easier gym. And with that, we can challenge our first gym leader, who will always have a Lillipup with Workup and an Elemental Monkey strong against our starter. Pork starts off with an insane crit with Ember, and then burns it after Cress heals. Lillipup does a little damage with Bite before another Ember takes it down. Next is Panpour, whose only attacking move is Water Gun, so I switch into Monkey as it just goes for a Workup. Monkey outspeeds and takes it down in 3 Vine Whips, only taking a little damage from Water Gun. That's badge number 1. Moving on to Route 3, we have a quick fight with Sharon. There's a ton of rival fights in this game, so unless one makes for a significant challenge or a fight with N, I'll be skipping them. Our encounter on Route 3 is a Patrat that I name Lemming. Patrat is probably the worst option that we could have gotten here, but it's decent against the next gym. Next, in Wellspring Cave, we're going to pull a little trick. In the dust clouds, there is a 100% chance that we encounter a Drillbur. The Excadrill line is easily the best option we can catch in this cave, so we hit a Repel and go into dust clouds until we find a Drillbur. Eventually we find one, and we name it Wilbur. On to Nacrene City, we can get one more encounter in the exterior of Pinwheel Forest, a Pidove that I name Burb. Before we can challenge the gym, we have our second fight with N. We start with Hound, who takes out N's Pidove with just a few tackles and going down to half health. N then sends out Timber, so I swap into Pork. He just goes for Focus Energy and a Leer, so 3 Flame Charges bring it down. Last is the Timpole, so I swap into Monkey, who takes a Bubble Beam and brings it low with the Vine Whip. Timpole then confuses us, so I swap into Lemming, who takes it out with a Tackle after being brought down to half with another Bubble Beam. Next up is our fight with Lenora, who packs an Intimidate Herdier and a Watchdog with Retaliate, which is really dangerous. Normally, if we had a Roggenrola, it would be easy to tank, but I have a plan. I start with Hound to bring Lenora's Herdier low, trading Tackle for Takedown. When Lenora heals, I swap into Lemming and take it down with 2 crunches, after the first gets a defense drop. I know that Watchdog will see a kill with boosted Retaliate, so I use Detect to neutralize it. Lemming brings it down to a third with 2 crunches before she gets put to sleep. So I switch into Pork, it gets hit by Hypnosis, but our Chesto Berry wakes us up before the Watchdog goes down to an Arm Thrust. That's 2 badges down. Now we can go inside the Pinwheel Forest. Just for this run, I did decide to allow myself to get another encounter on the interior of the forest. So I catch a Sawaddle that I name Mantis, which is really exciting because Leavanny is one of my favorite grass types. We managed to get through the forest with no more deaths and move on to Castelia City, where a man jumps out at us in a dark alley and then gives us the TM for Flash. Is this an innuendo that I just never understood as a kid? Let's not think about that one too hard and go challenge the gym. Pork is obviously the perfect answer into Berg's gym, and using Flame Charge will actually allow us to outspeed his hard-hitting Leavanny. It takes a bit to kill the Whirlipede due to Berg healing it over and over. Then the Dwebble goes down to 2 Flame Charges after just hitting us with a Sand Attack. Thanks to all the speed boost, Pork is able to take down Leavanny in 1 hit. And that's 3 badges down. Now we can get even more encounters, and the options here are pretty great. On Route 4 we catch a Darumaka and name it Round. Next, in the Desert Resort, I get a Sandile, naming it Sandy. Super creative names. Sandile has amazing abilities, either Intimidate or Moxie, and we got Moxie. Intimidate might be more consistently useful, but I can't really complain. Last, in the Relic Castle, we're guaranteed a Yamask, so we catch one and name it King Tut. When we get to Nimbasa, we have our next fight with N. He leads Sandile and I lead Pork. Pork barely doesn't kill before being hit hard with Sand Tomb, but another arm thrust is able to take it down. Next is Sigilif, which is pretty dangerous against our team. I swap into King Tut and a Psybeam brings him to just above half. I'm dead to a crit here, so I need to swap. I bring out Hound, who takes 2 Psybeams before bringing Sigilif low with a Crunch. Sigilif brings Hound low with an Air Cutter before another Crunch can take it down. Next is Scraggy, so I swap into Pork, who takes a Headbutt before taking Scraggy down with a 3-hit critical arm thrust. Last is Darumaka, so I swap into Wilbur and take it out with a single dig. Definitely had some close calls that I could have played around, but we get away unpunished. Now we have Elisa, who is really annoying with 2 Volt Switch Emolgas. I lead Hound and go for 2 workups. Her Emolgas just Volt Switch around before a return takes 1 down. Her second Emolga Volt Switches again, bringing out Zebstrika. We low roll on return and leave Zebstrika with a Sliver. So we switch into Wilbur on the heal and go for Dig, as Zebstrika just does a little damage with Quick Attack. Dig brings it down to the red again, so we go for another one as Elisa heals again. Another Dig brings it down to the red as Zebstrika hits us hard with a Flame Charge. We're getting really lucky with the crit luck here. Her last Emolga comes out, and I swap into Lemming, who gets brought low before using Return to bring the Emolga low. Last, I just swap into Tiger, who chips it down with Pursuits as we continue to get lucky with crits. That's 4 badges down. I definitely need to play more careful in the future though. Up next on Route 5, we catch a Minccino and name it Cheese. This encounter is about as exciting as plain toast. Across the bridge in Driftveil City, we can get another encounter in the exterior of the cold storage, a Vanillite that I named Gelato. Once we make a citizen's arrest of a bunch of dudes hanging out in a freezer, the local sheriff then allows us to come challenge his gym. Clay can be an extremely dangerous gym leader, especially his Excadrill with Rock Slide and Bulldoze. Luckily, Monkey is still alive and is actually a really good answer. Gelato does his very best against Crocodile before he takes too much damage and I need to swap to Wilbur. Wilbur, who is not a useless little baby, takes it out in 1 dig. Palpitoad then comes out, so I swap into Monkey. I take this opportunity to set up a workup since Palpitoad can't do much damage to Monkey. I'm not really sure why I set up a Leech Seed to then only go for 1 workup. I really should have set up at least 2 while I was safe. Monkey takes a little bit of damage from Muddy Water and takes out the Palpitoad. Last is the Excadrill, who starts off with a Hone Claws as a Seed Bomb brings it low. Remember how I said we've been extremely lucky in dodging crits? Well, that continues as Monkey gets slammed by Rock Slide and takes out the Excadrill with 1 more Seed Bomb. 5 badges down, no deaths, and no crits. Now that we're getting closer to the end, I'm going to be skipping over encounters that don't end up meaningfully contributing to the run. Up in Chargestone Cave, I catch a Joltik that I named Leggy. Joltik can either get Compound Eyes or Unnerve. Luckily, we do get Compound Eyes, which raises accuracy, making Joltik a really hard hitter with Thunder eventually. At the end of the cave, we have another fight with N. He starts with a Bulldor, and I lead Monkey. A Seed Bomb brings it down to a Sliver before Bulldor just uses Iron Defense. Another Seed Bomb brings it down. Next is Joltik, so I swap into Wilbur, who tanks a Bug Bite. Then a single dig is able to take it out. Up next is Pharaoh Seed. So I swap into Pork and Pharaoh Seed just uses Iron Defense, allowing it to live through a Flame Charge. Another Flame Charge takes it down. Last is the Clink, who lives through a flame charge and does some decent damage with Signal Beam, but one last flame charge takes it down. Arriving in Mistralton City, we can get an important encounter for Skyla on Route 7, a Zebstrika that I named Zip Zap. Now that we can fight Skyla, and catching Zip Zap plus having a magnet on her makes this ridiculously simple. The Swoobat goes down to a single spark. Unpheasant actually lives through a spark and goes for a Razor Wind. Skyla doesn't even end up healing, so another spark takes it down. Last up is the Swanna, who is 4 times weak to spark and goes down in a single hit. 6 badges down. Before the next gym, we can get a bunch of new encounters, but the only one worth mentioning is the Frillish that I get on Route 17. I name him Slippery. Skipping all the way ahead to the Bryson fight. This is going to require a pretty complicated plan. On screen, you'll see the calculations for Darmanitan's Fire Punch. As you can see, even with Charcoal, everything is a roll to kill, so this is a pretty risky strategy. But let's see how it goes. First is Vanillish, who thankfully goes down to a single Fire Punch. Next is the Beertick, who gets brought down with a Fire Punch. Last is the Cryogonal, who actually outspeeds and hits a pitiful Aurora Beam. Our Fire Punch hits its roll and we take it out in one hit, winning us our 7th gym badge. Skipping all the way to the Opelousas gym, we have our final gym battle against Iris. We lead with Gelato, who is able to outspeed and kill Fracture in a single Ice Beam. Up next is Druddigon. Gelato is actually pretty frail, and if we don't one-shot, we'll end up dying to Revenge. So I swap into Wilbur, who tanks a Night Slash. An Earthquake brings the Druddigon down to half, and it just chips us with a critical hit Night Slash. One more Earthquake is able to take it down, so out comes the Haxorus. I'm pretty sure that the Haxorus will always use Dragon Dance until it outspeeds us, and Wilbur is actually really fast, so I'm safe to just use Earthquake until the Haxorus goes down, winning us our 8th and final gym badge. Before I challenged the Elite Four, there were a few more encounters that I went back to get. Back in Icarus City, I caught a Palpitoad named Kermit, and on Route 9, I caught a Duosian named Gummy. Here's a look at the final team, all leveled up to the cap of 50. If you're noticing that this team is not exactly built well, you would be correct. But I kind of lost my mind planning for this and just sent it. Up first we go against Caitlyn, leading Sandy with the black glasses equipped. Thanks to Moxie, she's able to sweep through the entire Psychic team. Moxie Crocodile is absolutely broken. Gothitel's Frisk ability actually removed our black glasses, but at +3 she never stood a chance. That's Caitlyn down. Up next is Chantal, who goes down to a similar strategy, except we're just relying on base attack Crocodile, since the second we make contact with the Cophagrigus, we lose our Moxie. Luckily, with the black glasses and Sandy's absolutely astronomical attack stat, we easily sweep Chantal's team. That's 2 Elite Four members down. Next up is Grimsley, who actually requires a little more action on my part. I start with Leggy and hit the Scrafty hard with Thunder. After Grimsley heals, 2 more Thunders take it out, after Leggy just takes a little damage from Crunch. Up next is the Crocodile. I expected him to go for Earthquake, so I swapped into Gummy, but he actually goes for Foul Play. Not a smart switch on my part. So I swap into Kermit, who tanks a Foul Play and then a hard Earthquake before taking the Crocodile down with a Surf. Next is the Bisharp, so I swap into Round, who takes a tiny bit of damage from X-Scissor. Then he goes down to a single Fire Punch. Last is the Liepard, so 1 superpower takes it down. Definitely some sloppy play, but we get away with it clean. Last is Marshall, who I'm kind of terrified for since we didn't bring any great answers into his team. I lead Gummy, who's able to take down the throw in 1 Psychic. Marshall then sends out Mienshao, so I swap into Wilbur as he goes for U-Turn, and then sends out Conkeldurr. I swap to Leggy, who avoids a Hammer-Arm. But here's the big mistake. For the first time in his life, Leggy misses a Thunder, and I forget that the Conkeldurr has Stone Edge. Leggy goes down. Really stupid play on my part, but I blame the game. Gummy comes out, tanking a Stone Edge and then taking out the Conkeldurr with a Psychic. Mienshao comes back out, so I swap to Wilbur, who tanks a U-Turn again. Sock comes out, and I switch into Kermit, who takes a Karate Chop. I go for Drain Punch for a little recovery, and then our Poison Touch ability activates. Kermit tanks another karate chop and then takes out the sock with a surf. The Mian Xiao now comes back out and I swap into Wilbur again. Big mistake number 2. Mian Xiao hits a jump kick and Wilbur goes down. I'm so sorry, Wilbur, but again, I blame the game. I send out Round, who outspeeds and gets revenge on the Mian Xiao with a fire punch. That's everyone from the Elite Four, and we can refresh our team, but losing Wilbur hurts a lot. After boxing the Zekrom, we have one last fight with N. He starts with Reshiram and I lead Sandy. I go for Dig to dodge the Fusion Flare and bring it to about a third. Reshiram goes for a Reflect, and I dodge a Hyper Beam with another Dig. This takes out Reshiram. Vanillux comes out, so I swap into Round, who tanks a Blizzard. We outspeed and leave the Vanillux with a Sliver as it just goes for Hail. N then heals, then a High Roll Fire Punch will take it out. Next up is Costa, so I swap into Mantis, who tanks an Aqua Jet. He one-shots the Costa with a Leaf Blade. Next up is Klinklang, and as soon as it went for Flamethrower, I should have realized that it was the Zoroark. A Focus Blast takes down Sandy. I take the free switch into Round, who takes out the Zoroark with a superpower. Next up is Archeops, who instantly one-shots Kermit with an Acrobatics. I send out Hound, who gets an Intimidate off and hits a Return before dodging a Stone Edge. I then swap into Gelato, who takes a non-critical hit Acrobatics before killing it with an Ice Beam. Last is the actual Klinklang. Gelato would be useful for Getsis, but I need the clean switch into Round. So Gelato goes down to Flash Cannon. I send out Round, who then kills the Klinklang with a Fire Punch. We only have half a team left for the final boss of this run, and I am not feeling confident anymore. Last is Getsis, who leads Cofagrigus. I start with Sandy, and since she's dead, I need to instantly switch. I swap into Hound, who's immune to Shadow Ball. A Crunch brings it to just above half, and we get the defense drop. Hound tanks a Psychic Well before another Crunch takes it to his Sliver, and gets another defense drop. Cofagrigus then uses Toxic to start to stall us. Getsis heals, and another Crunch brings it to a third. He uses Protect to stall out some poison damage. He then gets a second Protect in a row off. Thankfully, another Crunch takes it down before Hound dies to poison. Rest well, soldier. I correctly predict that Bouffalant will come out next, so I send out Round. But Superpower leaves it just barely in the red before Round goes down to a head charge. The recoil does take out the Bouffalant though. I send out our last hope, Mantis, and Getsis sends out Palpitoad. Leaf Blade is a one-shot. Next up is Hydragon. Fire Blast actually misses before X-Scissor brings it to below half. I see a glimmer of hope. If Mantis can dodge one more Fire Blast, maybe, just maybe, we can pull this out to a win. But it wasn't meant to be. Fire Blast connects, and Mantis goes down. That's a wipe. Obviously, I didn't play super well in the end here. And that Getsis fight was absolutely disastrous. Only having 3 team members to work with made it nearly impossible. But that's just the way with Nuzlocks. If I wasn't so late in the game, I would consider going for an attempt 2, but a loss this late is just too painful. And I'm excited to try other games. But this was a lot of fun. I hope that as I get better at team building for these late game bosses, I can come back and get my revenge on Getsis. Thank you all for watching. I hope it was an enjoyable journey for you all, and I'll see you all in the next one.